Hey everyone, time for another little review. Trying to keep myself a little more brief here than my Pirates of the Caribbean review. I haven't really watched a whole lot of movies after I went to see Pirates of the Caribbean, mainly because of, well, not really feeling like it, plus something else has been keeping my attention. I've spent almost all my free time for the last 6 days playing LA Noire, the new game presented by Rockstar and made by Team Bondi from Sydney. And I honestly didn't really have a whole lot of... I didn't really follow this game. In fact, I'm not really that much of a guy that follows games during their development. I mainly try to simply keep games that I am interested in, like, in my conscience, in my consciousness, but I don't really follow them because that just annoys me, because either you hype yourself up to the point where games can't live up to the hype, like Dead Space 2, which was great, but still wasn't as impressive as I had hoped, or you just get angry because you have to and aggravated for having to wait too long for the game. So with LA Noire, I just kind of let it like build in my mind, and as the game approached, I started to feel a little more psyched for it. Now, even though this is a game review, I feel like I have to bring up movies because I feel like I'm coming from sort of a semi-unique perspective on this, because most people that I've heard that really like this game, I don't really know why they like this game. Like, I understand why they like it, but I don't understand where they got the hype for it, why they started liking it. Is it just because the Rockstar name's attached to it? Because this isn't... noir is something that very few people get, and even like fewer people actually like really know what it is. Now, for those of you who don't know, film noir is a genre of film that was very popular back in, like, I think it was the 40s to the 50s. It was particularly black and white crime dramas about usually a detective or a police officer working like usually a murder case or a drug case or something like that. And it always had this dark, like, noir means black, I think, or dark. It means black or dark. I think it depends on what language, if you're talking Latin, French, or whatever. Noir is basically black or dark film. And that was basically the staple of it, was that film noir was very dark, it took place at night, and it never really ended happily. The way it ended, varied a lot, but it usually meant that it did not end happily for the main character, or someone in the story at least. Film noir was a very time-specific thing, though, and hasn't really been around that much since then. Most scholars, actually, and when we talked about this in film school, and we actually did spend quite a long time on specifically film noir, my teacher specifically mentioned how Touch of Evil, which actually I'm going to start showing here just to be awesome and show my film knowledge. Here is my pile of film noir, like old school film noir that I like tote. I have more like noir-esque films in modern fashion, but these are the old ones I have that actually like officially belong to the genre of film noir. So you can just find Touch of Evil here. I don't know which order I'm going to talk. Oh, here we go. Touch of Evil by Orson Welles, a Swedish name there, so you Americans won't be able to read it and understand it. Yeah, Touch of Evil was pretty much the death of film noir. It did everything perfectly, but I think it was already dying off, and if anything, Orson Welles scared other people into not trying to make it anymore. But anyway, just to say, this game really had to live up to the name noir. And I have to say, I'm going to be talking about the overall game just quickly, then I'm going to get into spoilers, but I will warn you when I get into spoilers. Basically, film noir and LA Noire, like, I wanted something, when you have LA in the name, because that's also a thing, is that a lot of noir films took place in Los Angeles. In modern films also, like in the noir fashion. Like, I think it all comes back to this one, Sunset Boulevard, a movie about corruption and problematic darkness in the Hollywood film industry of the 40s and 50s. basically, oh wow, you just saw my underwear there. Basically, this game had to really live up to the name Noire, because even though a lot of movies lately, or like in the last 20 years, like LA Confidential and Chinatown, okay, that's older than 20 years, but Chinatown, LA Confidential, and a bunch of other movies have tried to use noir, and it's not really worked out. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I like this game. I really like this game. But it's not a noir game. The word noir is misused in this game's title, because it does not evoke the emotion that the old school like noir films evoke. In fact, I would like to say that like a lot of noir films are my favorite films of all time. Films like the ones I just showed you, Sunset Boulevard. Then there's like all the Humphrey Bogart movies, and in fact, it's kind of funny. They have these like polite nods at films from the era where the game takes place, because there's like, you know, drive-by movie theaters, and you'll see like posters for The Lady from Shanghai and The Big Sleep, which are these really big noir films. And but it does have a very interesting story to it. You play as Cole Phelps, who is a like homecome police officer. He's just come home from the newly ended World War II, and he like between the cases, and as you play him at first as a police officer, just like a normal officer, like a beat cop, and then you progress through the different like desks of the LAPD. You know, by the time the game's over, you will have been you do murders, you do vice, so you get to handle drugs, deaths, traffic accidents. You have little arsons in there. You get to do a whole variety of stuff, because you get to see Cole's entire career like sort of like overlap and expand. And that is where the game really shines, because you get to see all these different things through the eyes of this guy. And during his growth as a police officer, like almost I think like after like certain cases, you get to also see flashbacks to the war and to the other people, because there are always these other people that Cole knows who live in Los Angeles that you run into from time to time, and you get to see flashbacks to the war and how these people know each other, because none of them really seem to like each other very much. A lot of them seem to have like baggage and things they know about the other that, even though they don't really want to know, or don't really want to acknowledge, they are forced into conflict with each other. And it really is an engaging story that you want to see to the end, because you want to know how these people know each other, what their different feelings towards each other are, because basically everyone seems to hate Cole. Everyone seems to hate him, especially this one guy named Jack Kelso who you meet, and you get to see through all the flashbacks from the very get-go. This isn't really a spoiler because he's in there from the get-go. Basically, it's him and another dude and Cole in the first flashback, and then you get to see it all unfold. As for like the overall gameplay, it's I gotta admit, I did not really like Grand Theft Auto 4. I liked Red Dead Redemption. I did not like the car controls in Grand Theft Auto 4, basically. That was what kind of ruined the game for me. And yes, the physics are pretty much the same thing here, but the difference is that there aren't really any problems. Either I become more forgiving since then, or I just feel like this game doesn't try to do as much with the cars. Since you're on the side, like, I guess what annoyed me with Grand Theft Auto 4 was not when you were chasing someone in a car, but when you were being chased in a car. It always felt like it was annoying, like the cops would always come bust your ass if you did something wrong, and it felt like you wanted to be crazy like in the old games, but you couldn't, because as soon as you ran over a pedestrian, the cops would be on your ass. That problem does not exist here, obviously, because you are the law. If you run someone over when you're on a case, yes, that will actually end up hurting your overall evaluation at the end of the case. That's good. But it's still not something that hinders the game from being fun in the long run, unless you're really, really set on getting 5-star evaluations for the achievement, which I'm not at this point. I just wanted to have fun with the game, and hey, if you really don't want to drive a car around the city, which you should want to, because it's kind of fascinating to see what they claim to be the authentic 1947 version of Los Angeles in all its glory. You can just you can just choose a location or point one out on your map and have, because you always have a partner with you. You always have a partner with you. There are a few instances where you don't, but you can still skip. You can always choose a location and then skip forward to like the place where you want to be, which makes it a lot easier if you're not really in the mood to drive around the city, or if you're like in a hurry, if you just want to do the case and go do something else. So yeah, I actually found the game quite easy to play on the free roam side of things. Then you have the investigation part, which is, because basically I want to say right away that I don't really think the action aspects of this game are too amazing or anything. In fact, in a lot of ways, I find them to be the game's weakest point. The driving is good. The shooting is pretty good too. There's nothing wrong with it, because there are definitely action elements where you get to shoot and chase people. But my problem is that you have the investigative parts where you just have to investigate stuff. You have to check crime scenes. You have to feel for where your controller vibrates. Basically, if you're playing this with a PlayStation 3 6-axis like before, which I hope no one's doing at this point, but if you're playing this without a controller that vibrates, you're gonna have a fucking problem, because this entire game is based on you feeling when your controller shakes and reacting on pressing the A button to pick up a clue, or look around to find the clue on the ground, picking it up and looking around, seeing if you can discover what importance it has to the case. And well, my problem is, as I said, is that these two parts do not really mesh. The action elements and the detective work and the interviews you have to conduct to support the evidence you collect are almost like two different kinds of games. And it's fun to have both. It's great to have both. But it honestly feels like there is too much action in this game. And I know a lot of people are going to say, how the fuck can you say there's too much action? Isn't there too much slow parts? Because this game took me over 24 hours to beat, even though I did all the side quests. So I wasn't really rushing through this. But anyway, it took me around 24 hours to beat. And doesn't that mean there are too many slow parts in it? Because most of that is just talking and looking and stuff. But no, that's honestly not the part that bothers me. The part that bothers me is, and this is not really, again, we've not gotten to the spoilers yet. This is just an overall thing to point out, is that every time, and I really mean every fucking time, you find a suspect and he's doing something incriminating or something. It's always males too. The women, the women never run. The men always run. That's the point, is that you always find men doing something stupid, or you just say, wait a minute, how could you be there if we have a witness saying that you weren't there, because this witness was there. And then he said, oh shit, and the guy you're asking just bolts. It's like, and then it turns out, spoiler, this isn't a spoiler either, just the overall example, turns out he's not guilty of anything. Why did he run? It's like all the witnesses you find, all those suspects you get in this game, they run away from you. Not a single person stands their ground and has you actually confront them with words. They always run, and it's so obviously it's done to throw in a little action segment in a case that might otherwise just be you walking around asking questions. And it got to the point where maybe that's because I was playing the game so late at night, I just wanted to go to bed and I just wanted to finish the case I was going on. But when you're like an hour into a case and you've already had 3 suspects run away on you, it's kind of annoying to have it, a 4th one do that. And that happens. You're like, fuck, can't just one of these bastards stop and let me talk to them? I bet you, because it also is because a lot of cases, especially on the second disc, because I'm playing the Xbox version and it's on 3 discs. Basically, the entire second disc is murders, like the homicide disc, and there's basically all these people that are accused of these crimes, and they run away from you. But you see them do these things. Like there's this one guy who's burning his bloody shoes in his backyard after you've had a talk with him, and he runs away as soon as you discover him doing that. And you just know from standard CSI like logic that obviously he's not guilty because you're like an hour into the case, if even that, and it's too obvious. Obviously he didn't do it because, you know, the case should be over, or because it's too obvious. So yeah, he just comes off as being a waste of time, or at least just an overly complicated situation that they throw in to make the game more varied. But the problem is it doesn't become varied because it happens in every single case, at least for the first 2 discs. I don't really want to say too much more about the gameplay. It's solid in all parts, only that some aspects are repeated too often, except for the end where the game actually... Because I honestly have to admit, this game felt a little long, like in general. As I said, the second disc is pretty much just homicide cases, and they're, like, without being too specific, a lot of them are connected, and it becomes a little long-winded. You just feel like, well, if this is just going to be another of the same MO because we're dealing with a case that's connected to the previous one, how many more are there? And there are a lot of them that are connected. There are 21 cases, 22 if you pre-order from GameStop in the US, or if you live in the Nordic region, you get it for free no matter where you bought it. There's 22 in that case, because there's one extra called The Naked City. And, well, and there's 7, like 21. 7, I think there's 7 cases on each disc. There should be, pure math-wise. Probably not, but hey, anyway, 21 cases. And as I said, I think the murder, like the amount of cases on the murder disc that actually belong together are at least 5, if not more. And that becomes a whole lot when you, like, that's at least 5 hours worth of gameplay that are, like, directly connected with each other. And even though now I've actually gotten into a little bit of spoiler territory, but I'm not going to get more specific than that, is that you can just sort of imply that they're related, because at least the murder, like the murder method is related. And that becomes a little annoying when you're dealing with the exact same thing that happens over and over again, and they use the same formula with every single one. I'm not saying that since they're connected they're boring. I'm just saying that since you know that every time you find a suspect during all these cases, he's going to run away from you, you're going to have to shoot. That's the one other gameplay thing I wanted to mention. When either they're running away from you and you have to catch them, which you have to do sometimes, or you have to shoot them. And when you have a gun out when you're running after them, there are 2 things you can do. Sometimes you can try and steady your aim on them long enough so you have this little meter around the cursor that fills up, and when it fills up all the way, it just you automatically fire a bullet into the air and the guy just stops dead and you get him, or you can just shoot them to death. And the thing that pisses me off about this is the first time I had a chance with this on the first disc, I just naturally shot him in the leg because I thought, well, I'll incapacitate him, because I think that's what a cop would do in this situation. A cop would not wait and just shoot into the air and hope that fucking spooks him into stopping. No, you wouldn't kill him, but you'd incapacitate him. You shoot him in the leg or something to make him stop. Shoot him in the foot, something. But no, if you shoot this guy, I shot this guy in the leg and he died because there is no way for this, for you to not kill them. And that is annoying because, you know, I kind of feel like a game like this should have, because it ruins the realism. This game has a very realistic, gritty feel to it, at least on a technical level and a narrative level. So I kind of feel like the overall gameplay should support that vision that the game's narrative obviously is trying to set. And it doesn't, since all you can do is shoot people to death, and that's something that a real cop would never do. Especially not a glory boy like Cole Phelps, who is all about justice and supporting the law. The entire backbone of this game is corruption, and indeed cops are corrupt in this world. It's like, let's see, Batman. But still, Cole Phelps cannot injure people. He can only shoot people to death, and that's really lame. Yeah, that was all I wanted to say about the gameplay. Solid. All elements are solid. Only that they're repeated and different, like too much in certain parts. I never had a problem with the detective parts, the investigative parts, even though they are indeed, I guess, the most repetitive part because they are always the same. You know what to look, like, you don't know what to look for, but you know how it works. But I really like it because they switch up the situations enough and the places you have to look through. Sometimes this game actually does become legitimately frightening. Like there were parts in this game where I actually felt fearful, even though you know that the game isn't gonna pull a jump scare because, well, it's not that kind of game, and the game's like narrative and cinematic like cutscenes don't jump into the point where a jump scare would work. But still, frightened, and that actually takes something to take a game that is not a horror game and actually make you frightened of it. And this game succeeded, at least I got counting twice with actual real terror, or like real like nervousness, and one like semi. So yeah, there are definitely points in this game where you might even get to the point where you feel, just like I did, kind of spooked and freaked out about what's going on. Yeah, so what more do I want to say? I actually don't feel like spoiling the narrative. I already told you I don't feel like this game is film noir, because they try to sort of like put out different things in this game to make it like a film noir. Like the narrative things I talked about before are definitely present. Like corrupt cops. There are certain dark elements, but basically that's this game's big problem. It has sad moments that it tries to make work, but there's too much brightness. There's too much daytime action, and of course that has to work because if you didn't have a daytime, like this game would become kind of even more one-sided if you only played it at night. And in fact, when you played at night, it kind of gets a little annoying, even though the game is very well lit up and it's nothing like that. I just kind of like driving around the city of Los Angeles more during the day. So the word noir is kind of misplaced, but it doesn't really bother me from anything more than like the fact that I know what film noir is and I love it, and I think this game doesn't really evoke that feeling. That being said, this game was a blast to play. Even though I've already beat it, I'm going to play it again. Even though I know it's not, I don't feel like it's one of those games like I've played a lot of CSI games where you play it once and you just throw it in the back of your bookshelf. You played it for the achievement points, which I did with both, like the 3 CSI games I have. I think I have 5 or 6 CSI games. I've only played 2, and that's because those are the only 2 I have on 360. Guess why? Points. But yeah, I know how this game works. I know the characters. I basically want to replay. This could be a game I think everyone should replay to get the full story experience, because some of these characters are almost a little hard to keep track of, because there are so many of them and they're jumping in and out of the story through flashbacks and present time, and you're like, who are you to who? Oh, you're that guy. What? Who are you related to? Oh, you're with that guy? You're with him? Huh? What are you doing here? Oh, you're this guy. Okay, I get it. I get you. Oh, you're his partner? What? And also just because, as I said, some of these cases are connected and it really helps to know different things about these characters. The graphics are really impressive. Not because the city of it itself is anything revolutionary, but this game has, and I'm not exaggerating by saying this, the best facial animation of any game ever. Because it combines the two things that video games have had a hard time doing right. Lip syncing is great. Lip syncing works perfectly, and the eyes are also pretty alive. If one thing's better than the other, the lips are definitely the thing you're supposed to keep track of, but the eyes are actually pretty alive too, and that's pretty cool, because the thing is, I think all the characters in this game look like the actor that's portraying them. Like the main character's guy, the guy that's in Mad Men, the TV show, and well, they use some sort of special like motion capture technique, which makes them look like the guy they're looking as, and the mouths move like they're supposed to, and the entire like body moves the way it's supposed to, and it just helps sell the illusion that this is a real game. That's why it annoys me when you only can kill people, is because even the game's technical like mimicry of a human body is so realistic. The fact that you can't shoot to wound kind of really ruins it. And because of that, the voice work is stellar. Even the bit players, it's kind of surreal also, because you'll run across people. I'm going to run up 3 people here that I recognize by playing this game. First of all, there's Greg Grunberg from TV's Heroes, Matt, you know, the semi-fat guy who sort of like pendled between being good and evil in the different series. He's in this, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then Brian Krause, I think his name is, the guy who played Leo on Charmed, if anyone remembers that show about the 3 witches. Yeah, he's in this game, and it's like, what the hell, you're here too. And then the smallest one, which is Anna, the female angel from Supernatural. She's in this for like a case. Like, she literally has like 2 speaking lines. She's like just a secretary or something. And she wasn't in Supernatural that much either. But it's kind of funny to see these people and just know that, oh crap, you're in this game and you really look like this in real life. That's why I know that it's you. So yeah, really cool technology, really great voice work, and like mimicry of the face. Everything about this game looks great because of it. It sounds great too. The soundtrack is pretty damn good. It's not nothing amazing, but it sets the tone and the time period. I really like it. As I said, I don't really want to spoil the story that much. I might actually make a separate video later on when I feel like this game's been out long enough. I want people to watch this review without feeling like I'm going to spoil too much. I think I might have actually said some things that people don't like already. But anyway, I will make a special video for that. Not tonight though. I am tired and I've got Y the Last Man to read. So yeah. Play LA Noire. I'm looking forward to a sequel. I want one now. And that's actually something that's rare. That I play a game for over 24 hours and immediately say, guess what? If there was another game that was just as long, I'd play that and just leave everything else be. Bye, LA Noire.